In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Dear grade 9 students, welcome to this new video lesson. Today our lesson will be from Module 7, Lesson B, Grammar, Students Book page 77, Workbook page 74. Let's start our lesson. Let's read the lesson objectives. By the end of the lesson, you will be able to, number 1, recognize the forms and functions of conditional sentences type 1. Number 2, use conditional sentences type 1 in meaningful situations. We'll start the lesson by reading some sentences. If you feel hungry, I'll go to the beach. If the weather is fine, you should see a doctor. If we walk faster, make some sandwiches. If you feel sick, we might arrive in time. What do you think of these sentences? Don't you think that they are funny and illogical? As you see, the two parts of each sentence don't make sense. Why don't you pause the video and try to rearrange the different parts of the sentences and come up with more meaningful ones? I'm sure it was easy for you to rearrange the sentences. Now let's read them again. If you feel hungry, make some sandwiches. If the weather is fine, I'll go to the beach. If we walk faster, we might arrive in time. If you feel sick, you should see a doctor. What do you notice about these sentences? I can hear someone say, all the sentences start with if. And another one might say, each sentence has two parts. That's correct. So our lesson today will be about conditional sentences. Now, I want you to open your student's book page 77 to Grammar. Conditional sentences type 1. If versus when. Exercise A. Read the examples and complete the rule. If you buy 2 products, you will get a third one for free. If you want to complain, you should fill out the form. If Betty needs help, tell her to ask at the information desk. Before we answer this question, we need to understand the forms and functions of conditional sentences type 1. So let's move to the grammar reference section in your student's book, page 121. Let's read the first part. Conditional sentences type 1. We use conditional sentences type 1 for something which is likely to happen in the present or future. And they can also be used to give advice and instructions. Conditional sentences consist of the if clause and the main clause. Here, we have some important information that you need to know about using conditional sentences type 1. First, they express something which is likely to happen in the present or future. Second, they are used to give advice and instructions. Finally, each sentence consists of two parts, the if clause and the main clause. Now, let's go into more details in the next slide. As we explained before, the conditional sentences type 1 consist of the if clause and the main clause. In the if clause, we use the present simple after if. In the main clause, we can use future will, modal verbs like may, might, can, and should, or we can use the imperative. Let's explain each one of them in detail. We can use if or when plus the present simple in the if clause. And in the main clause, we use future will, which consists of will and the infinitive. Let's read some examples. If the weather is fine, I'll go to the beach. If you study hard, you will get high marks in the exam. When my father arrives from work, I'll ask him to help me with the homework. I'll tell you everything when I meet you next week. Here, we can also use if or when plus the present simple in the if clause. And we can use the modal verbs like may, might, can, should, plus the infinitive in the main clause. Let's read some examples. If you feel sick, you should see a doctor. When you do something wrong, you should apologize. If we walk faster, we might arrive there in time. Here, we will also use if or when plus the present simple in the if clause, but we are going to use the imperative in the main clause. The imperative is the infinitive form of the verb without to. Let's read some examples. If you feel hungry, make some sandwiches. If you want to cancel printing, press this button. When you arrive home, call me directly. Switch off the machine when the temperature reaches 90 degrees Celsius. Here are some more examples from the grammar reference section. You can pause the video in order to read them by yourself. Here we have an important note. When the if clause comes before the main clause, the two clauses are separated by a comma. Now let's explain the difference between if and when. When is used to refer to the time something is going to happen, while if refers to the possibility of something happening. For example, I'll tell him when I see him. This means I'll definitely see him. The person here is sure about the action. The second example, I'll tell him if I see him. This means I may not see him. I am not sure about this. Now, let's go back to Students' Book page 77 to Grammar. Exercise A. We use conditional sentences type 1 for something which is likely to happen in the present or future, and they can also be used to give advice and instructions. I want you to pause the video and try to complete this rule. Your answer should be like this. If plus present simple in the if clause, and in the main clause we use future will, can, may, might, should, and the base form, and the imperative. Now let's move to exercise B. Read the examples and answer the questions. John, I'll order something if I get hungry. Lisa, I'll order something when I get hungry. Here we have 3 questions. Let's read the questions together. Do the sentences refer to the present, future, or past? Question 2. Which tense do we use after when? Question 3. Who is sure or not sure that he or she will get hungry, and why? Now, you can pause the video and try to read the questions and examples again in order to answer the questions. I guess most of you answered the questions correctly. As for question number 1, do the sentences refer to the present, future, or past? The answer should be they refer to the present and the future, as we explained before. For question number 2, the tense that is used after when is the present simple. As you see in the example here, when I get hungry, the verb get is in the present simple. What about question number 3? Who is sure or not sure that he or she will get hungry and why? John is not sure he will get hungry. We use if to refer to the possibility of something happening. On the other hand, Lisa is sure she will get hungry. We use when to refer to the time when something is going to happen. After explaining the rule, Let's practice using conditional sentences type 1 by doing exercise C. In exercise C, you are going to circle the correct words and complete the boxes with if or when. So you are going to do two different things. First, you are going to circle the correct words. Then you are going to write if or when in these boxes. I want you to pause the video and do the task. Remember, my dear students, that you must think of the reason and justification for each answer. Now let's begin. Number 1. What are you doing tomorrow? Well, I'm going on a day trip with my cousin Richard. If the weather is good, we may go hiking too. Do you want to join us? Why did we choose if here? Because if expresses possibility. And why did we choose is? Is here is in the if clause, so we use the present simple. Why did we choose may go? Here it's the main clause, and we can use modal verbs. Now let's go on. I'd love to, but my brother is coming to visit me tomorrow. Tell him to come along too. Okay, I'll ask him when he arrives, and I'll let you know. Sure. Here we used will ask because it's in the main clause, and we use the future will. And here we used when because it expresses the time when something is going to happen. Now let's do number 2 together. Hi, it's Saud. Is Musa there? No, he isn't. He's in the garage. When he gets back, I'll tell him to give you a call. Okay, Saud? Okay, but if he tries to call me and I'm not home, he should call me on my mobile phone because I'm going out later. Okay then. Why did we choose when here? Because when expresses the time when the action is going to happen. And after when, we usually use the present simple, so gets is in the present simple. Here we used will tell in the future will because it's in the main clause. Here we wrote if to express possibility, and after if we use the present simple also, so we chose tries. Here we chose should call as a modal verb in the main clause. Now, let's do some more practice on conditional sentences type 1 by going to the workbook, page 74. Exercise C. Complete with the correct form of the verbs in brackets to form conditional sentences type 1. I want you to pause the video, read the sentences, and try to answer the question. Let's check the answers together. Number 1. If I leave work before 6, I'll drop by your house. Number 2. Mona won't go to work tomorrow if she is ill. Number 3. When Tom meets him, he'll see how annoying he is. Number 4. You'll miss the bus if you don't leave now. Number 5. Give me a call if you decide to go to the park. Number 6. I'll cook dinner if I get home early. Number 7. If you want to lose weight, don't eat junk food. Number 8. If Khalid has got some free time this evening, he will go to the supermarket. Now, let's move to exercise D. In this exercise, we are going to do a different kind of practice. In exercise D, you are going to read the advertisements below and write sentences using if and the verbs given as in the example. Let's see the example. In this example, you can see an advertisement of Katara Cultural Village. The advertisement tells you that you can walk through the Katara corridors. In this sentence, we are going to use the verbs visit and walk. Let's read the sentence. If you visit Katara Cultural Village, you will walk through the Katara corridors. Remember, my dear students, that you must study the advertisements carefully in order to know what you are going to write about. Now, I want you to pause the video and try to write the sentences. Let's read number 2. If you order dinner on Wednesdays, you will get desserts for free. Number 3. If you buy a new computer today, you can pay next year. Number 4. If you take part in the contest, you may win 5,000 Qatari riyals. Number 5. If you go to the Scottsdale Zoo, you can feed the baby panda. Number 6. If you join the Clearview Book Club, you will get a free book. Now, we have come to the end of our lesson today. Thank you for watching. Study hard and keep safe.